Okay, so a little bit more on grading, and I want to move over to our sidebar here. All right. I do not grade based on a curve. I'm not a math teacher. I don't want to focus too much on the numbers. So my grading scale is relatively simple and straightforward. 90s are A, 80s are B, 70s are C. Everything else pretty much doesn't matter. Um, I consider a C to be average. This is the traditional definition of what a C is, and I think that in order for my particular grading scale to be most effective, it is better for everyone that a C is marked as average. Um, and it should be. If you're the average college student putting in the average amount of effort, what you're going to get is a C. Um, Higher levels of effort are going to generally yield higher results. That's not a guarantee, though. You may be struggling and you may be putting in a lot of effort, but you may be struggling to get to that B or that A. A B happens more rarely than a C, and A happens very, very rarely indeed. Okay? And I'm talking about the way that it works for any given assignment. Now, if you're consistently putting in good effort, and if you're also making sure to do some of the extra credit stuff, maybe putting in a few extra credit notebook pages or what have you, really understanding the system well enough that you know how you can get those points, um, then it's entirely possible that you will, through a combination of good writing skills, solid writing skills, and good effort, that you will be able to make that B or that A. But please, please don't take it as a given that you are going to get a specific grade just for putting in kind of the minimal amount of effort. Because the differences between a C and a D in terms of work are very much dependent on situation, we'll say. So that's what I've got to say about grading. Oh, one more time, and because I say it here, I'll also say it again in the video here. In order to pass the class, you have to maintain a passing average on all essays and pass that notebook requirement. If you don't have the required number of notebook pages, if you don't have the needed level of development in that notebook, really is what it's about. You could pass all of your essays, and you could pass all your essays very well, but you still won't pass the class. And vice versa. You could have a really fantastic notebook, but if you don't have a passing average on your essays, then you also don't pass the class. And the other things that we might do in class, while they would contribute to a grade that was passing otherwise, even if you do have kind of all this other material that's contributing to your grade, if you don't have that passing notebook and you don't have that passing essay average, you will not pass the class. Formatting. So early on in the course, you're going to get a worksheet called Formatting for Your Major, and chances are it's going to be available on the course management website, whatever we're using for that. You may have already gotten it, and I actually may end up developing a video just for that one, but we'll see. But in terms of formatting, what you will probably have here is what we call MLA formatting, Modern Language Association. That one becomes important in knowing what the MLA is and what it stands for becomes important in your syllabus test and in the formatting for your major page. But while I put MLA formatting here, double-spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman font type, instead, what I would have you do, this is kind of a default setting. If you can't think of how to format something, maybe because it's a particular document type that you haven't worked with before, or something comes up, you can kind of default back to these, and if you format your products according to these standards, you're going to be fine. But what what formatting for your major does is it asks you what your major is and then has you kind of pursue that to find out what formatting is actually being done in your field. What I would like for you to do is I would like for you to format, when applicable, I would like for you to format documents for this class according to your major. I want you to get to know how you need to actually format the information that you're going to be delivering to people for the field that you're going to go into. And we'll talk a little bit more about formatting for your major when we get there. But that's what I'm going to say about it for now. So let's see. Other stuff. I'm going to drag that up just a little bit. So we now move on to attendance. I'm not going to belabor attendance too much. Please make sure that you're getting to class. If you're not, who knows what's going to happen to your grade. You can read through the attendance section on your own. Let's take a look at this little sidebar, though, since I did make a little bit of a show of moving it. Emailing with Anderson. If you are in one of my business writing classes, chances are we're going to have a whole lesson on developing a professional-looking email. Otherwise, if you are in one of my literature classes or if you're in one of my composition classes, this information is still very pertinent. And the reason why I say that it's pertinent is because we are only emailing each other more and more. We are only communicating with each other through electronic media more and more. And you have to make sure that you're representing yourself well in college to your professors. We're not even talking about getting onto your, getting onto your career. As you are dealing with your professors, you have to make sure that you're representing yourself well. If you don't, then is that professor going to be moved to do the things for you that you want him or her to do? So, in order to be able to represent yourself well, especially when you're developing some sort of a letter, these are important things to keep in mind. These are pointers that if you can do these things, if you can make sure that you're paying attention to these things, chances are you're going to be representing yourself to your professor in such a way that's going to be more likely that you're going to kind of get an agreeable response out of that. Okay, it's just human nature, especially when you're dealing with people like us, people like professors, who can be sticklers for things that you don't necessarily think are that important. So please make sure that you're taking these various points into account. Use professional sounding email address. Make sure the subject line is filled out. Make sure that there's a good salutation there. Make sure that you're identifying yourself. Make sure there's a signature line. Make sure that you're proofreading, that you're reviewing this piece of material, that all the spelling is correct and all the sentence structure is good. And then make sure that if there are any attachments, that you've actually attached them. And I think that if you can just follow those pointers, then you'll be fine. So that's enough for our sidebar there. Let's talk about missed late or late work / test makeup policy. Chances are there are going to be kind of differences depending on where I happen to be teaching you at, what institution. But generally the way that it works is if you need to turn something into me by a deadline, but you can't actually hand it to me personally, and for some reason you have to give me a paper copy, you can usually go to the office, have somebody there sign it off, they'll put it in my box. If I see that it has been signed off by somebody in the office and time-stamped, and it has to be time-stamped, because if it's not time-stamped, it doesn't matter. But if it's time-stamped and I can tell that it's been submitted before the specific deadline for that assignment, then I can accept it as though I actually did receive it before the deadline. That said, if something is late, chances are you're just going to get a 0 for it. I try to make my deadlines as clear as possible, and I will only ever push a deadline back. I will not ever make anything due earlier than it was due originally. That's kind of the trade-off there. It is entirely possible that I will push back due dates. If I think that we as a group are not prepared for something to come due, then I'll do that. Or if I think that for other reasons things need to be moved around, I'll do that. So due dates are not necessarily going to be hard and fast. But when that due date is established, it is expected that you will turn in that material by the beginning of class on the day that it is due. And by the beginning of class becomes important, especially on that syllabus quiz, that syllabus test. So again, please make sure that you're paying attention to that.